Okay, good morning. We're going to do a few more author talk shorts, and I've been explaining that it's like a mini video, and so I want to welcome Dr. David Schein and the team. So this is the marketing PR team, including Amy that works with me and Elena and Rachel that work with David. So welcome everyone to this Author Talk short. And of course, our star for the moment will be Dr. Schein, because we're going to be asking him the questions. And Dr. Schein is the author of The Decline of America, 100 Years of Leadership Failures. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about COVID-19 and the effects that it's having on the city of Houston and the employees, the small businesses. One of the things that David does, he's a professor at the University of St. Thomas, and he's also worked with small businesses, entrepreneurs in a lot of different ways. So David, explain the order that we just had for Harris County and what effect that will have on businesses.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate the introduction, and glad to talk about what is going on with COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of concern, and part of it is that the various government and medical entities do not actually know what is the best thing to do. And I find it interesting that the swine flu, also known as H1N1, hit about 10 years ago, was a much more fatal disease in terms of the percent of people who contracted the disease were seriously ill or passed away from it. And so this virus is easier to catch, but much less fatal unless people have seriously compromised immune systems. The death rate has been almost exclusively people in that category, compromised immune systems, or over 70 and 80 years old. So it's disconcerting because it does seem that we don't have a clear consensus as to the best way to respond to the situation. There's been very serious problems in Seattle and in other cities on the West Coast. This New York City is in very, very serious condition, but it does seem that there have been some miscues or serious overreactions. One of them may or may not be the stay-at-home, work safe order that came out from the Harris County judge yesterday morning. And judge, by the way, is a very odd term. I don't think anywhere in the United States you have the chief county official called the county judge. So it is not a person with a legal background, and it is not a person who actually has any judicial functions. But basically the idea is that you can't spread the virus if you're hunkering down in your house, as we say here in Texas. And so everybody's supposed to stay home. Now, the enormous problem with this is that there are no regulations, and in fact the order itself, as of last night, was not on the Harris County website itself. And I personally checked the Harris County website several times yesterday into the evening to say, where is the actual copy of the order? So it's not clear who's covered, but what we can tell you is the number of exceptions outnumbers the population pretty much. One of the ones that has upset many people that I know is the fact that the construction industry is exempt from the order. And people are like, well, how is that a critical service? We understand medical doctors and medical practices being exempt. That's right up at the top of the list. But we don't understand why all of these other things are on the exempt list, including, by the way, liquor stores.
I saw that. I was like, liquor stores are an essential business. Okay.
Liquor stores are an essential business, and of course, gun sales are an essential business here in Texas.
Oh,
and so it's almost humorous. So the idea is to compel as many people to work from home as possible. The problem is going to be, and I did want to mention a resource. If someone actually wants to look up the official list, which came from the Department of Homeland Security, it is under the link CISA, 4 letters, CISA.gov, is the official website from the federal government listing what they consider to be essential industries which would not be covered by a shelter-in-place order. And as I understand it, Harris County basically has adopted the CISA list, though I don't recall construction being on that list, but they've added construction. And so it's almost humorous to see who's on the list and who's not, except that this has had a devastating effect on the American economy. And one of the things that it depends on, unfortunately, a political view, but one of the either applause or criticism of President Trump has been that he has announced that he is hopeful that these extreme limitations will be able to be relaxed by Easter, which is the weekend of April 8th and 10th. And that's relatively soon. And of course, as soon as he said that, some various pundits and commentators said, well, you know, he's bowing down to big business pressure and all that. And the medical profession, though, came out in kind of the middle. They said, well, look, Trump didn't say that's when it's going to happen. He said he hoped it would be okay by then, but obviously it's going to be up to the medical professionals. So Dr. Fauci was supposedly quoted by some sources as saying that was not correct. I've read several different interviews and statements from him over yesterday, and he was quite clear. He said, look, President Trump and I are working closely together. If we get to Easter and things look like they can be eased up, then I think that might happen. But if it isn't, I don't expect the president will release the economy. So what we're dealing with here is a largely localized event. So Harris County has adopted this, what most people call a shelter in place. And Fort Bend County has joined them. The city of Galveston County actually preceded Harris County. Montgomery County, also in the greater Houston area, as far as I know, does not have a shelter-in-place order as of the moment. Now, before Houston, Harris County did this, the cities of Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, and remember that we're dealing with regard to Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston, 4 of the 10 largest cities in the United States. I mean, we're not dealing with it's not chicken feed here. And in fact, my personal projection is that when the 2020 census is completed and it will be delayed because of the coronavirus, that Houston will be the 3rd largest city in the United States, will edge out Chicago. This is not necessarily a competition. I'm just making an observation is that Chicago, the citizens that they're not murdering in the streets, they are fleeing the city in large numbers due to the lack of employment opportunities and other economic situations. So as Chicago and other large northern cities bleed population, also driven by different other social factors, cities like Houston, Dallas, and the Sun Belt have been picking up population, and I think that will be reflected in the final, whenever the results around 2022 are released out of the census. So I think what we're going to see is, I do think that Harris County will come off the restriction. One of the things is it will be 90 degrees here today. The viruses, in fact, the flu itself, largely is spread when people are locked indoors due to winter conditions. And so with 90 degrees here in Houston, our environmental conditions are such that it is less likely to continue to spread. Most germs and viruses are heat sensitive. I don't know, but 90 degrees is pretty hot in most people's book. So I do think Houston will be under restriction for a shorter period of time. The Big Apple, New York City, is certainly one that most people are red circling and saying New York City, where of course people live in a very compartmentalized structure. Houston is famous as not just a large city, but a large flat city, meaning that people are not especially stacked on top of each other in a day-to-day existence.
That's
so
true,
with
because we're really spread out.
Precisely.
geographically and everything, as well as the number of people. So, well, David, that's great. So we're going to take that as this is what's going on in the Houston Harris County with regard to COVID-19, the coronavirus. And so we're going to say goodbye to you for now, and we'll bring you back on for another Author Talk short later. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. And we're saying goodbye now. But if you want more information, you can go look David up on Facebook. He has his own Facebook page, as well as an author page. He also is a consultant and has a company called Claremont Management Group. And so we will put the link to that website, as well as the link to the CISA.gov in the comments for this video. So thank you, David, for joining us today.
Thank you.